Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the JLX Friends with Benefits podcast. Today, I am joined by the Queen of SaaS herself, Miss Laura Rose. Welcome
Hello.
to the podcast. Thank you ever so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're more than welcome. I'm really excited for this, and I'm sure that there's loads of people who probably wish they could have asked you some questions instead of me, but hey, tough luck.
That'll be for next time.
Next time, that's what we'll do. We'll put it to the people, but people are ruthless, so maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah, I was going to say.
So, Laura, I'm going to hand over to you. I just want to give you a quick introduction for those who maybe don't follow you, don't know you. Let them know a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into it from there.
Yeah, so my name's Laura. I'm 24. This is like a Love Island intro. I am an online fitness coach. So I own my own fitness coaching business called Lift Up, which is in the early stages. I only launched it in February, but that is what I would consider my main sort of job. But I am also a social media influencer. I really don't like that word, which maybe we can get onto later, possibly. But I sort of inspire people, I hope, through my Instagram account, which is Laura_Rose_fitness. Yeah, and I'm a fitness advocate, love everything to do with training and things like that. So
awesome.
That's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic. We were speaking about this. We've had actually our own mini podcast already. You guys have missed out because we kind of got carried away talking before we pressed record.
I know. We genuinely been chatting for about half an hour and we were like, we should probably get on with it now.
What's going to happen here is we're both going to have serious deja vu over the conversations we've already had, but we'll try and share them with you as best as we can.
It's going to be fun.
We kind of kicked off earlier chatting a bit about kind of your coaching journey. So obviously you've been coaching for quite a while, but then decided to create an app. We spoke a little bit about that. But also released that app in kind of the height of COVID. So there's some interesting bits to chat through there. So I think what would be cool, because I don't actually think I know the full extent of the story in terms of like what got you into coaching in the first place and how you started. So maybe for everyone, including myself, could you just run through like how you got into coaching and then kind of take it from there?
Yeah, so it will kind of be to do with how I got into fitness in general, but really. So I got into fitness in uni and I actually kind of just fell into it one day. I wasn't too confident in uni. I was actually a very different person to how I am now. I think a lot of people who follow me on Instagram would not be able to recognize me in uni because I was so quiet. I had no confidence. I always kind of say I was weak physically and mentally. And I can't remember the first time I went to the gym. I think my boyfriend Toby took me. And I just fell in love with it. And that's when I started my Instagram. And I actually, so there's so much to the story, but I actually ended up competing in powerlifting while I was in uni, joined a few societies, got involved that way. And then it just got to a point where I was like, look, I don't think I want to do anything else but fitness now. I don't know whether at that point it was like, I'm going to be a coach, but I was like, I want to do this after uni. I was actually studying sociology and criminology, so completely different to this. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to chase my dreams. So that's when I sort of decided to like pursue my Instagram. The first time I think I realized I wanted to be a coach it's kind of a cute story actually. I was in my home gym back home after uni once I graduated, and I was hip thrusting. And these two girls came over to me and they were like, wow, like your technique's really good. You look really comfortable. I find those so hard. Can you show me? Can you help me? And me at the time, I was like, really? Okay. So, I mean, my coaching points probably weren't very good considering I hadn't done the qualifications or had not much experience, but I helped them. And we actually spent like half an hour doing it. And by the time they left, they were so confident and they were so happy. And I think it was seeing them go from being so like insecure with the lift to being happy and confident. I remember I texted Toby, my boyfriend, and I was like, Toby, I want to be a coach. Like I want to, or be a PT. I want to help people. So from then I just kind of got into it and, you know, did my qualifications and got experience. And so that was 3.5 years ago. But I kind of realized, I think with coaching, I think is the qualifications only get you so far. You'll probably agree with this, Sandra. They're very basic. A lot of them can be outdated. So I did my qualifications and I was like, right, I know how to maybe be a PT in a gym, but I don't know how to get a client from A to Z, you know, get them to a goal. So I actually spent like months and months just like doing my research, getting experience. At the time, I was working with a powerlifting coach during uni. This was kind of all at the same time. And I just worked on that. And it was obviously during the pandemic, I decided, right, I'm going to do this now, because I did a little bit of coaching before the pandemic, but, you know, wasn't too sure on myself. But yeah, so the way the app actually came about was I wanted to make sort of something that was accessible to a lot of people. Obviously in the pandemic, loads of people are at home. Some people don't want a full sort of like one-to-one coach. And I always knew that I wanted to, well, when I branded it as Lift Up, I knew I wanted it to be one-to-one coaching eventually, but I kind of wanted to ease people into it. So that's when I launched the app, which is called Lift Up. Probably the most stressful experience of my whole entire life, making an app. It was actually, this was all while being coached by Xander, but Xander will know that I was stressed AF for like months and months. And it was actually one of these moments where I had to kind of focus on developing the app and developing the brand, that I wasn't actually coaching or working at the time. I was just investing into it. And then in February 2021, so this year, I finally launched the app after like 8 to 10 months of developing it, launched the app. And then from there, I've just progressed it. And now I am doing one-to-one coaching as part of Lift Up. It's a little bit confusing, but yeah. I don't know if that was a good explanation.
Yeah, no, very good. Very good. So I've got kind of 3 follow-up questions, because you covered quite a lot of stuff there. So the first thing I think just to touch on this briefly. So you do your one-to-one coaching, and then the other part of Lift Up, you said that you wanted that to be more accessible. So is that kind of a group coaching? Is that like a subscription?
Yeah. So it's a subscription. So you've got Lift Up, which is the app, and then I guess you could call it like 2 tiers almost. So you've got a full one-to-one coaching tier, bespoke training, everything like that. And then you've got a standard tier, which is more like following a goal specific program. So there's 4 or 5 goal-based programs people can choose from. And then along with that, they get access to the app, the community, and things like that. But the good thing with the program is it's kind of accessible in lots of different ways. So first of all, it's like for people who genuinely just can't afford coaching yet or can't afford to invest. Obviously, it's cheaper than full one-to-one coaching. There's lots of different things to choose from goal-based. And, you know, it's just a good way to sort of get into it, because one-to-one coaching is amazing, but I think not everyone wants that just yet. You know, it can be quite an intense thing, I think, for people who are just starting out on their fitness journeys as well. I know for me, when I first started, I probably would have been too scared to work with a coach, even though working with a coach first thing is probably actually the best way to get into fitness, really. But I know not everyone wants that just yet. So for a lot of people who join Lift Up, sometimes they'll join standard first, and then they'll be like, I'm ready now to move on to one-to-one coaching if you've got spaces. So that's kind of how it works, basically. Lift Up is like the brand, and then you've got the app and kind of coaching together with it.
I like that. I like that very much. My second question was to do with the app itself. We spoke about this, didn't we? Because you actually brought up the fact that I was ranting about fitness apps on my story of the day, which was actually different. It was a different thing I was ranting about. But you actually created the app, right? Obviously, you didn't develop it. You're not an app developer, but it is your app. It's not.
Yeah, so essentially, the guy who makes my app, his name is Tyler. He sort of has this, shout out Tyler. He's like he'll have the software, the basic app sort of like interface, and then I can choose what features I want. So there was a few different things that I wanted as part of the app, which he kind of then had to make to suit me. But in terms of everything that goes onto the app, it's all mine. So all of the workout videos, all of the recipes, the pictures, the content, obviously the training programs, everything's written by me. So it's not, you know, white labeled at all. There are a few app companies which we were talking about, which are great, but a lot of them will be done sort of by like an external team who will input data for you. So like videos for demos and things like that. But I actually had to do it all on my own, which was really stressful because, you know, it's like so many things at once. I was doing like the marketing and then like the developing and then the editing, the videography, the photography. So it was quite stressful, especially during lockdown as well, because well, obviously I had to record like probably like 150, 200 exercises and variations in the gym, and had to do that while the gyms were opening, while the gyms were closing, and it pushed back the launch date of my app so far. But yeah, so I pretty much did it all on my own. This is the thing. So when you make an app yourself, or it's not sort of white labeled, when things go wrong, you also have to kind of figure them out yourself as well. So I get help from Tyler, of course, but a lot of any issues that go on, I kind of have to sort them. So it is quite stressful, but it's nice. It's nice having control of it.
Yeah.
But
It's also nice because
yeah,
it's all your own work as well, isn't it? So,
well, exactly. Yeah.
it's your baby, if you like. You created it. It's
Yeah.
the stuff that you've put into, and that's great. I think as well, I think as an industry rely a lot on information. Information is always shared, right? We all have information that is great information, and it's always shared, but there's something quite good about being personal with it. And I think if you can put your own touch to something like an app, then it makes it feel a bit more like a community-based thing. And like I said this, I think I was talking about this a while ago with somebody about apps and things, and it's something that I'd looked into, but not to the extent of which I felt like it would benefit us at the time. But I think with the way things are going, and like speaking to people who have created apps like you have done, it sounds far more appealing to me than the old style of like, here's a format, you can put your logo on it, have fun kind of situation.
You know what's interesting though, actually, since starting the one-to-one element of my coaching, everyone's very different. There's some people who love the app and they really enjoy that, but there's actually quite a few people who have said to me that I prefer just to have something like a bit more basic and easy to see, so like Google Drive. So with some of my clients, I'll give them that, because some people don't want the app, they just want it all out in front of them. So it's quite interesting. Everyone's so different.
That is a bonus.
But it is a good thing, but it's tough.
It absolutely is. It is. But I think as well, when you've invested not only your money, but also a shitload of time and emotion and effort, it's a new kettle of fish, because if, say, you'd picked up an app which you pay a subscription to, and I could be completely speculating here, but let's just say you paid 400 quid a year to use an app for coaching, for example, that you pay that, and if after the first year it doesn't work, then you're like, okay, well, this wasn't the one for me. But you obviously had to pay out for the app to be created, and you don't get that money back, and it's not something you can just go, okay, cool, I'm going to end my subscription here. So the thing I like the most about this, and I put this together while you were talking a moment ago, is that you went from someone at university who was, and to use your words, quite shy and maybe quite introvert, to someone who had the confidence to go, I'm going to pour my heart and soul and money into something before I know if it's going to work or not. And I'm going to make it work.
It was terrifying.
That's quality.
It was
That's
terrifying,
really cool.
because I was, there was some point where I was like, not even just with money, but more like you said, with time. I'm like 8 months into this now. And it's like, Christ, if this doesn't go well, or I suppose that that's the thing, like, it's never not going to do well, because the only time it won't do well is if you give up. It's about growing it over time. And that's the thing I kept telling myself. I was like, right, we're going to launch, but that's only day one. There's so many improvements that can happen from then. And you're right, like, versus just even like with maybe something a bit more white labeled or something that's not yours. It's like, it's like my baby, because I put so much work into it now. And it's great, because then you want to keep developing it, and you want to keep making it better, because you need to, because you've invested so much in it, so. Yeah,
it's almost a gradual commitment to an extent, isn't it? You've put in so much already, so why not do a bit more? Why not commit a bit further?
Exactly.
And keep
and sometimes I really do look back and I'm like, wow, that's because was it in this week's check-in you said to me, I think, something about you've got to sit back and you've really got to advice from Xander. You were saying about how you need to sit back and make sure that you're like, you understand what you've done and how far you've come and the things you've, because we were talking, I think, about me, if I ever feel burnt out and stuff, and sometimes you have to look back and be like, wow, I did this. Is that my WhatsApp beeping, or is that yours?
I've turned mine off.
Sorry if that's annoying. Sorry if that's really annoying. But yeah, like, sometimes I do look back and I think, wow, like, from being in uni, like, if you told me I was in uni and I would have like the balls, quite frankly, to do anything like this, even with Instagram as well. Like, I've put a lot of my life on Instagram. Obviously there's stuff I keep to myself, but a lot of stuff is on Instagram. And it's crazy when you look back and think, I came from being this like shy, even shy. To be fair, uni, I came out of my shell a bit more, but school, I was so different. So yeah, interesting times.
The interesting thing, and I think like the conversation we were having, and I think this will benefit a lot of people, because this was actually something that Jack told me years ago. And I think we were talking about coaching. I can't remember what we were chatting about at the time, but he said to me, the truth is, Andrew, he said, everybody always looks up the ladder at the people who have climbed higher than them and at the people who are doing better. He said, but nobody ever looks back down. Nobody looks at the people who are below. And I kind of modified that in my own mind to think, I'm looking up the ladder at where I want to be, but I'm not looking at all the steps that will enable me to get there as a process.
Yeah.
And a lot of
so
us do
true.
that. We look at like, oh crap, look how far I've got to go. Like, I really wanted to get 50 subscriptions and I've got 5. Well, that's 5 steps on the way to 50. But you look at that 5 and then you look at a huge gap between the two numbers, when actually, if you look at it as 50 steps, each new person is an extra step. And I think
it's like with fitness, isn't it? Like,
exactly.
You know, when you have people, everyone's so focused always on this end goal, or like, what, I'm not doing good enough. But if you actually look at how far you've come already, and I always say this to my clients and people on Instagram, it's like, when you learn to love the process, like, you're going to be so much happier, because that's what it's about. It's not about that end goal, because even when you get to that end goal, so let's say 50 subscribers, when you get there, you're just going to want 100. And you're not going to be happy then either. But if you learn to love the process and accept everything for what it is, you'll be happy in life. And I think that's really important with fitness.
Yeah.
And when you're chasing a goal.
Absolutely. I think it's even more important in terms of like looking at the different processes of like dieting or gaining. Dieting is a very, I want to say gratuitous, but that's not the right word. Like, it's very easy to get verification and gratification from what you're doing, because the scales move quicker, you develop faster, new lines, and people start going, oh, cool, like, you look great. When you start gaining and you start to lose those lines, it happens so slowly. The scales don't move. And we've had conversations where, you know, we've had to be like, look, this is enough now. We're moving forward. Because sometimes you get a bit too comfortable because you don't have that like end point with gaining. And I think that it's really easy to get caught up in like the end stuff. But actually, if we just need to focus on what's in front of our faces and be able to be like, right, next step, let's enjoy this. Let's take this in. I'm criminal for this. Like, I hold myself to a standard. I'm not even going to say a high standard. I'm just going to say a standard, which is just not fair. Like, it leads me to be pretty miserable sometimes, because I'm just like, I haven't achieved this. And Katie, my girlfriend's brilliant. She's just like, what's wrong with you? Like, anybody in this position would be super happy. You need to learn to just, you know, take your own advice.
We're always so hard on us. I was literally, who was I can't remember who I was having this conversation with. We were saying, like, I think when you're into fitness and that's a hobby, we're a type of person that's so harsh on ourselves. Like, we always want more, which is good. It's nice living a life where you're wanting more and wanting to sort of be your best self, but at the same time you have got to like sit back sometimes. I did a caption on this yesterday ish when I was reminding people that they're not like a competitive athlete, for example. Like,
I saw this. Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting topic, I think, because I'll always push people to be the best they can be and to work hard and expect a lot from yourself, but at the same time, that you have to give yourself a break sometimes and just be happy for things you've achieved, because I think you just can't try and be perfect all the time. Yeah. It's not going to get you in. It's like back to what I was saying about enjoying the process and the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Happiness is a lot like money in a sense. You know, people always think, oh, I'll be happy when I earn this, or I'll be happy when I have this. And it's like, the truth is that shouldn't be dictated on either thing. Like, they should be completely disconnected, because happiness is something you can have at any point, and you could be happy with finance at any point, as long as you have enough to cover, you know, if you look at like Maslow's hierarchy, the lowest level of like breathing, eating, sleeping, shelter, things like that. But I think we get so caught up in a world where people buy things on finance, where, and I'm no disrespect to people who buy stuff on finance, where stuff is so much more accessible now, that we start to look at ourselves in a negative light because we don't have that stuff. And I think
so true.
The thing I love about fitness the most is that you can't buy a better physique. Like, you cannot. Literally,
it's all to do with the hard work you're putting in. It's so rewarding. And that's the stuff that you should be focusing on. It's like, not, you know, it's just even just going to the gym, you know, getting your steps in maybe, or all these little goals and short-term wins are so important. They all add up. And if you focus on those, it's like whenever a client reaches out to me, and I'll always encourage them to not just set like an aesthetic-based goal, but performance-based goals and mindset goals, because they're trackable a lot easier. You know, you can celebrate these wins in check-ins all the time, instead of just focusing on that end goal or that like shiny new car type thing. That's kind of similar to what it is, isn't it? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a whole game perspective of things. And I often say to people, obviously I work with a lot of people who coach other people. And I often say to people when I read out their check-ins, I like read what I've probably done this with you, where I read back what you've said to me. And I'm like, what would you say to yourself? Like, if you were in my shoes now, what would you say? And the responses I get for this, like only one person has ever replied saying, I asked you that question. And that was quite an interesting one for me, because I was like, oh, okay, like,
Oh, damn. Okay.
all right. But the truth is, like, these situations are so much harder when you flip them around. It's like, okay, if I just read that back to myself, like, as say Laura was coaching me, say you were coaching me, you know, what would you say to me? And the truth is, you probably can give yourself exactly the same, you know, answer that I could give you, but sometimes it's that connection and reaching out. And I think that's the greatest part about being a coach like we are. Because, you know, in terms of how I mean, I don't get coached by you, but I would assume you coach in a very, you know, holistic and emotional manner as well, where actually, do you know what? Like, I want you to do the best and I want you to succeed, but I want you to be in mentally a better place at the end of this journey.
That's a huge part of my coaching.
And you can't ask
to be honest, our
more.
coaching will be very similar, because I've taken a lot of inspiration from you, like with your check-ins and stuff. Because I think I've probably told you this before, but what I loved when I joined JLX was that the check-ins weren't just about my workouts that week or the lift I did that week or the nutrition. Like, we've spoken so much about mindset, like, you know, loads of things that have gone in with my life, me being stressed or me struggling with, you know, like PMS has been a huge thing for me this year, struggling with that. And you've been there all the way. So I think that's kind of the amazing thing about coaching, is you're getting to know these people on a deep level. It's not just about going to the gym and lifting a weight. It's so much more than that. So
it's the facilitation of those things, isn't it? It's like the, you know, sometimes when people, I've got some people who are very factual. So, you know, I coach people who are coaches themselves, like yourself. And I also coach people like you do, who just are everyday muggles, as we would call them. And
don't get us started on Harry Potter.
Thought I'd sneak that one in there for you. And, you know, these people who are so focused on training, and I'm like, hey, like, how are you doing? And they're like, don't worry, it's fine. I'm like, no, seriously, how are you doing? And then they'll pour your heart out. And they're like, I didn't think this was part of what you do. And I'm like, look, if you are super stressed at the moment, which means you are not being able to adhere to your diet because of this, or your training is not so good, I'm not doing my job if I can't help you through that. And if at the end of, you know, however long we've worked together, you go, actually, now's not the right time for me. And I'm like, why? Like, what's up? And they're like, oh, I'm actually going through a lot of stuff. I'm like, hey, you know, I'm not a therapist, but hey, sure, like, you can talk this out and we can see if we can help. And I think that's a really important part of being a coach, not like a trainer.
It all ties in, doesn't it? It ties in, you know, if you're tired, if you're stressed, all of these things are going to affect, it just goes round full circle. You know, it's like training stress both ways. Like, and that is the difference between a PT, because people often ask me, what's the difference between like a trainer or a PT and an online coach? And I feel like an online coach, obviously to a certain extent, is there for you for a lot more things than just fitness in general.
I'd like to think
and even in lockdown, we've learned you know, that fitness is huge mentally. It's a mental escape for so many people. You know, even you did your post about that and what kind of got you into being a coach and what got you into being fitness. Like, it all ties in so much, and like, fitness is an escape and it's a lifesaver. It really is. Like, absolutely. So I think it's important, if you're going to coach people, to understand that and understand how it ties in.
And I think that ties in as well to what you said earlier about the PT course. I think PT courses are great because they give you a foundation, but they don't give you the tools that you would actually need to facilitate the change in someone's life. Because if a PT course was good enough to get you to where everyone would make change, you'd have to be coaching robots. Because look, you know what they teach you, 3 sets of 10 to 12 will get you hypertrophy. Sick, right? Today we're going to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 of all of these exercises, and they come to you. And I PT'd in person for a long time. And a lot of the people I PT'd, I would say, were people who needed a person there to help them with it. Not all the time, but someone who just helped them because they maybe didn't have the confidence to go to the gym by themselves, or maybe they had some kind of like long-term injury, illness, and so on. And being there with them was really great. And in that respect, you know, you were able to support them in their training. But if you didn't know how to speak to people, or you didn't know how to empathize, or actually adjust your approach based on how they were feeling, you know, I've coached women for a long time now. I've coached women through PMS. Every month, you know, this happens. I've coached people through, you know, and, you know, for me as well, it's like, it's not just like one, like, obviously I don't go through it, but all of my clients go through it. So
Yeah.
every week I will have 2 or 3 people like, oh my God, I'm really
You'll
struggling.
be like, oh, it's that time of the month again for
Yeah,
Laura.
I'm just waiting for
God, here we
Laura's
go.
to come around. I've got it on my calendar just so I can prepare myself.
Honestly, it's true. I know all of my clients' cycles, but it's the things like that they don't teach you how. And we were actually having this conversation in a check-in once. You said about how all of these, you managed to spin a negative into a positive. You said all of the bad things that happen to you or the hard times you go through is just going to make you a better coach, because now I've gone through PMS. I can help girls with the same. You've had clients who've gone through PMS, so we're using that example, and now you can help them with it. You helped me with it. So it kind of goes round. And talking about the qualifications, like it just doesn't tell you. It's great for learning the anatomy and things like that, but it doesn't teach you how to deal with people. Like you said, it's like dealing with robots. It's not. And as we were just saying, fitness is so much more than just the anatomy. Like so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to talk about that actually, because that was a really good conversation we had there. And I thought it was quite a pivotal moment for you, if I can say that. Because from my perspective, I've always come into your check-ins and thought, I'm always mesmerized by how positive you are, like every single check-in. And I remember when we first started working together, I thought, I wonder how long this is going to stay for. And like, call me a pessimist, but I was like, this person just sees positives in everything.
Do you remember during my cut, you said to me, you were like, why are you so happy? I was like, only a bit hungry. I'm fine. And it was like near the end of my cut.
I actually can remember this really clearly. I remember looking at one of your check-ins once, and it was like something along the lines of, I'm really, really hungry, but I know this is part of the process. I'm absolutely loving it. It's going great. And I'm ready for next week. And I was like, what is this person taking? And how do I get some of this in my life?
You've got to be positive.
You do. But
we did go through hard times, but
but this was one of the first check-ins I think I remember seeing from you where I was like, okay, this is different. Like this is a different vibe. And like, for me, it really kind of hit me quite hard, because I was like, right, this person clearly isn't feeling great right now. And like, I just actually thought in that moment, I thought, what would old Laura, and I swear to you, this is what I thought, what would old Laura be thinking right now? And I thought, how do I make this a positive? Because there's 100% one in this.
Yeah.
And obviously you'd been coaching, and I think it was probably around the time you only just started your one-to-one stuff, I think.
Yeah, it was, I guess, probably a couple of months ago. I think it was.
So it would have been the first time. Was it the first time you've had PMS since training like this?
Yeah, so I was just about to say to you, I feel like I should give some background to
that would be
the
helpful,
listeners, because they're probably thinking, what are you on about? So I've been on contraceptive pill for like 8 years or something like that. And I finally decided to come off in January, just not really for any reason. I hadn't ever really had any side effects with the pill, but I just didn't want the hormones. I wanted to just try it natural. I was like, I don't want this anymore. So
sorry, if you're wondering why I'm laughing, wasn't it? Wasn't your mum really keen for you to have a kid? Is that right? She was messaging you.
Yeah. Like... Oh, she was buzzing. She was, yeah. She messaged me. She was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. How do I prepare? I was like, Mum, I'm not getting pregnant. I'm just going to stop taking the pill. She was buzzing. She's probably watching this because hi, Mum.
Shout out Laura's mum.
She's probably watching this. She'll be buzzing. But yeah, so I came off. Not for any reason other than just wanting to get off hormones. And it was fine, but oh my goodness, like, so when you're on the pill, so I took it, so I would have obviously like a artificial period every month if I stopped taking the pill, but I never used to have PMS. I never used to struggle with anything. So all of a sudden when I came off the pill, like my hormones were all over the place. And PMS for me was sort of like a low mood, feeling a bit kind of, it's hard chucking around the words sort of depressed, but I kind of felt like that a lot of the time. I felt very dark, cloudy, just even if something good was happening in my life, all I could focus on was things that could go wrong, anxiety, that kind of thing. And for a week, it would literally just be that, alongside like low mood. Over the course of the months, I guess as my hormones are resettling and rebalancing, it's getting a lot better now. So for me, it will just be the odd sort of feeling a little bit grouchy or tired, rather than like, I'm really sad. Yeah, sassy, which I'm sassy anyway. So, poor Toby, my boyfriend. No, I'm not that bad. But no, yeah. So for me, that's kind of what the PMS was. So at the time we were checking in, I think that was probably at the bad time. And I think I just had my PMS week. So this check-in was just after a really rubbish week. And I even said to you, I said, good things have happened over the last 2 weeks, but I just can't focus on it right now. All I can focus on is like how rubbish I've been feeling this week.
Yeah.
Which is obviously when you gave me the pep talk. And you know what, that's really changed things, actually, because it does make you, it almost feels like it's a privilege sometimes to go through these things. I think it builds you as a better person, and it's definitely, it makes me feel a lot. So anyone watching this or listening to this, you've got to think of it that way. Like everything you go through that's hard and the tough times, it builds your character, and you're always going to learn something from it. It will make you a better person. So I like to think it's made me a better coach.
It will do. I have no doubt about that, because, you know, I truly think, and you alluded to this earlier, but the post I put up about why I became a coach, I actually, you know, loads of people, I couldn't believe the amount of support I got off that post. It was really very, very touching. And people saying, oh, you know, it's really brave of you to post this. The truth is, I hadn't posted it, not because I didn't want to post it. I just thought, why does it matter? I never thought, well, who cares? Like, why did anybody?
Of course
care?
it matters. It's because you're making yourself vulnerable. And I think
that
people
is exactly
really appreciate that.
Exactly. That's what I came to appreciate, actually. And I said this to Katie. I said, you know, I didn't post this because I didn't not post it because I was scared. I just didn't think why would anybody care? But it's like we kind of spoke it through. And I think the key part of this and the situation that you went through is that all of the things that happen to us, we have had choices of how we handle those situations and what we do with the things we've learned from those situations. So you could have, for example, not brought up that PMS was a struggle for you at that time and just gone, I'll suck it up and do my best. And then every week, or every month, you know, that's come about, you kind of just struggle on. And I kind of look at your training and I just think, God, Laura, what's going on? Come on, like we should be doing better than this week. And you're just like, sorry, I'm trying my best. We're separating ourselves, because I'm thinking to myself, what the hell's going on? And you're there like, oh, I'm really struggling. But what you can do is go, actually, there's a few things I've learned here. One, I really know that all these things that happen and we go through, we are able to, you know, it's really cliche, but it's like you grow through what you go through, right? And
it's true.
If you now have this, you know, say for example, you'd never come off the pill and you'd never experienced PMS, you'd know exactly probably what it felt like and just generally had a good idea, but you wouldn't have experienced the huge fluctuation in what you went from to what you were experiencing.
Oh, it's like trying to explain what it's like to maybe a man or someone who's not been through it is really hard. It's completely just distorts your mind. Like you cannot think rationally sometimes when you're, so I know jokes get thrown around, it's like, oh, she's just hormonal, but it really is, it's weird. Like I literally just for that day in particular just couldn't see anything good or happy at all. It really does affect you mentally. And I think it's really, but now I've been through it. I have a lot of my girls struggle with PMS in different variants, and now I can so understand where they're coming from. I can be empathetic, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
To it than, and actually, when you said something there, it made me think of a point I wanted to touch upon as well, as being honest with your coach is something that I think is really important. So, you know, for anyone like listening to this who has a coach, when you're checking in, like you've got to be honest with how you're feeling, because I could have just sugarcoated that week at all and deceived you and made it feel like it was fine. But I was like honest. Which is probably why when you read it, you were like, whoa, okay, she's like, for once, like really struggling. You've got to be honest, you know, in every aspect. So
the truth is, the way I look at this is, you know, we were talking about this before we started as well, and I had a rant about this the other day, is about people messaging me about what their coaches are doing, and like, oh, should my coach do this, and blah blah blah. And without going along the rant again, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I don't know if I could tell my coach about that, test them out. Just, you know, don't be a knob about it, but, you know, give them the opportunity. You don't have to go all out and open yourselves up completely if you're feeling vulnerable, but give yourself the opportunity, give them the opportunity, because I know, you know, I'm a male coach and I coach, you know, if I coached 10 people, 9.5 of them would be women, right? I coach 2 males. And so for me, you know, you might look at me and go, well, what the hell is this guy going to know about how I'm feeling right now? But although I may not have experienced PMS, and part of me wishes I could, a huge part of me wishes I could, because I would like to understand better. And there's probably some people like, you don't want to experience that, but like you did, it gives you a weapon in your arsenal.
Does, to
be able to be like, okay.
But in some ways you have experienced it though, you know, when you coach a certain level of people who are honest with you in check-ins and give you the information with how you're feeling, just like I have, you kind of have experienced it in some way. So
and I think as well, like with that testing of them, if you don't get the response that you're looking for, maybe they're not the coach for you. Maybe you actually deserve better. Maybe you deserve different. Maybe you guys just aren't aligned. But I would say, look, try and see, because they might
100%.
really surprise you. I mean, I don't know how you'd have felt telling me that, when we first started working together. I'd like to think that you'd have gone for it, but we had a great relationship. We've worked together for a long time, so it might have been a bit easier for you. But it's worth testing the water, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely. And even if you're concerned about anything, or your coach should be able to give you an answer. And I think sometimes you have just got to communicate with them, because often there'll be a good reason why your coach is doing something. They might just need to explain it to you. So you've just got to be honest. I think, so your run, obviously you were talking about people who were, say, reaching out to you about their coach. And it's like, you've just got to speak to your coach about it.
Yeah.
That you just got to be honest. And
it gives them the opportunity as well, because firstly, you want the opportunity for you to get the answer that you want, to be able to develop and grow and do better. But also it gives them the opportunity to help you, which is what you're paying them to do. So, when people write to me saying, oh, my coach has got me doing this, is this right? I'm like, I don't know the context of why you're doing that. So it's pure speculation.
Exactly. You're paying for a service to get the info you need, and make sure it's, absolutely. I think there's a lot. The coaching relationship between client and coach is so important. And I think that is really, obviously the science and the programming and all of that is obviously really important. But a lot of things which I think people might fall short on is the relationship between the coach and client. That's for all sort of like new coaches wanting to start, because we were saying that before, there's so many people now who are interested in coaching and trying to get into coaching. And that is really so important. Is like, are you willing to have that relationship where you can be honest with each other? Because it goes both ways. Like you're always so honest with me. You've, especially with my training, which is come on miles. Like honestly, like you've pushed me so many times. There's been so many times I've sent you a video and you've been like, you can do 2 more easily, or it's good. Like you're honest with me.
Yeah. My I was telling you earlier that Katie's a big fan of Harry Potter as well. She often comes to the rescue to you when I post on my story. I'm like, oh, definitely one more there. She's like, why'd you have to be so horrible? Why can't you just be nice? Like, she's clearly trying hard.
Nice.
Like, not trying hard
not
enough.
Hard enough. Literally, no, but that is what you need. Like, I don't want a coach to, just to say it's fine. If you've really made me push my full potential. And again, I did another post on this a couple of days ago, which was my sort of from my bulk to my cut to my lean bulk. And it's like in that space of time, like my training has gone miles, and it's actually my deload week right now. So for anyone who doesn't know, and I was actually thinking this yesterday, it's like how I train in my deload now is literally what I used to train like in 5 weeks of my pro, like genuinely, because, getting to that rep and thinking, oh, I could probably do a couple more, but I'm at my rep range now. So it's fine. Like I've worked, it hurts a bit, but it's really about pushing harder and like trying to see what your body can do. So I appreciate the feedback.
No, you're welcome. I'll continue along the strict line. Sometimes it actually hurts me a little bit when I'm nice. I think, right, I'm gonna have to weigh this up somehow. This doesn't sit well with me.
It's your Muppets like tea drinking thing that gets me. The little
my little Kermit. Yeah, he's my personal favorite. Do you know, by the way, you actually have people who really like you, because I often get people DM me like, nah, I don't think she did have 2 more of that. I'm like, she did.
It's like when you're like, you ask them to vote and it's the people who vote nicely. I'm like, oh, bless.
Yeah, you've got like, if 100 people voted no, you'd have like 5 core supporters of like, that was definitely right. Like I could post a warm-up set from you and they'd be like, yeah, that's definitely good. That's fine. I'm like, no, it's not so fine. Nice. I'm gonna have to DM them in future.
You better follow me, guys, if you're watching.
Yeah, no, joking. Don't. We do not need any more support for warm-up sets, okay?
No, we want to be training hard.
Exactly. Speaking of which, I did want to talk briefly about your kind of start, middle, current, because I mentioned this to you, I think, in the check-in. I said it'd be really cool to see actually where we are now versus where we were at the same weight previously.
Yeah.
So could you just kind of say like how you went through your original gaining phase? Then we obviously dieted, which was super impressive because most of that was in lockdown.
That was and intuitive.
Yeah, and
Don't forget.
Happy, just loving life the whole time.
Yeah, I had a great time. I mean, it was only the last few weeks before the end where I was like, oh, this is hard. But yeah, it was fun. So I so the time that I started coaching with you, which is kind of where I have a lot of my progress pictures from, it's weird because I kind of almost see that as the start of my newborn fitness journey. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can relate to that, where it's like I've been training now for like 5 or 6 years, but the time I've taken it really, really seriously has been in like the last 1 or 2 years. So I had just done a really big building phase. I was eating like, I think I was eating like 3,500 calories, 4,000 at one point. Honestly, it was a big building phase. And I'd done it on my own and I'd made mistakes along the way. So I had the term dirty bulk is kind of probably sums it up. I had gained quite a lot of fat, not in necessarily a bad way. That's not a bad thing. But I was at the point where I was like, I want to go on my first sort of cutting phase. So I reached out to you guys. And it was actually meant to be a short-term phase. So originally, the original goal was we'll have a short sort of like tidy up phase, you know, short-term shreds. And it actually turned into, what was it, a 23-week cut or something like that?
Week. Yeah, it was fairly long.
And that was just because it was going so well. Like I was adapting really well to lower calories. Like I was just dropping weight. I think, to be honest, it's a mixture of my hard work. So I was getting my steps in. I was training well despite it being locked down. You know, I was eating to my calories, but also I guess genetics in a way. Personally, I find it quite easy to drop fat. And we kind of did that, and it lasted. When was that? I'm trying to think. This was right when the pandemic started. This must have been in February of 2020.
Yeah, because you started with Jack, didn't you? And then when Jack stopped coaching,
I switched over to you.
Yeah, because I remember this because I don't do 24-week dieting phases. I for lifestyle clients, I just don't see that anybody needs that. It's just not necessary for most people. Like I push 18 quite hard with people, and you know, a lot of my female clients, especially at the start, I tend to go quite hard anyway because I find it's better for adherence. But I remember getting to that point where we probably had this conversation, and I was kind of like, there's just no sign that anything needs to stop yet. And you were like, I've got more in me. I want to get a bit leaner.
And we just decided, didn't we? Let's just push this.
Fine. Do you know what? Like, and this is why, just coming back to what you said earlier about having that good coach-client relationship is so important, because had I not have had that back from you, I'd have pulled the plug on that straight away. I'd be like, nope, we're not doing it, because it's just not worth it most of the time. Like an extra 2% in weight drop is never worth like the food relationship issue you could have by pushing that too far. But there was just nothing. I remember thinking, like, this person looks like they've just started. Like, we're 18
genuinely, it was
in.
crazy, wasn't it? Like, and as well, not forgetting. So we went into lockdown probably March time, and I don't know how many weeks I was in, but I had to go home and live at home with parents for like 3 months, and I couldn't track. And the reason I couldn't track is because I was staying with my boyfriend's parents, and it was quite tough. And do you remember I just ate intuitive for like 2 months, and I was just like consistently dropping weight, and I felt really good, and it was crazy, really.
It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
you know, it's definitely something I would never recommend people do. I think they get themselves into more trouble trying to do that. But you know, it was almost like you had such a great routine with it that it was the consistency of it that led to the success.
Yeah, you know this is the thing I want to make clear to people listening, is that this isn't me being like, go and do a really long cutting phase. Like you were saying, you don't have to. But I think, you know, I had a good level of experience. I had an amazing relationship with foods. I've never, ever struggled with my relationship with food. So obviously I had a coach who I was checking in with, and I felt fine. Like it was only towards the end when obviously the diet fatigue came in. And at that point we had that conversation, and we were like, I think we're done now. And we were done. But, and as well, do you remember when I think I messaged you or put it in the check-in, and I was like, right, I'm filming a YouTube video tomorrow. It's the 10,000 calorie challenge. And I think that was in the 18th week of my cut, or like the 19th week. And there have been very few times in our coaching relationship where I just thought, fucking hell, Laura, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I want to do it for the YouTube. And I did it. And I'm pretty sure wasn't like 3 days later or something, I had a new low weigh-in or something ridiculous like that.
Right. Like, from my perspective, I'll let you in on something here. I get this message from Laura. Oh, by the way, hope this doesn't really change much, but I'm going to try and do a 10,000 calorie challenge. And I was like, I think my response to you was something along the lines of, do you have to do that? And that was my kind of polite way of being like, God, oh no. Anyway, she was like, yeah, look, I've committed to it. I'm going to do it.
I told people on my stories I had to do it.
I think it'll be fine. And I swear to God, I sat here with my head in my hands, like, this is just a for someone who cares about people's relationship with food. My brain was like, this is a huge red flag. Don't do it. Anyway, I think then I was like, right, what can we do to mitigate this? Because I'm not going to make you starving going into it. That doesn't make any sense. How are we going to go after this? I think in the end, we just said, right, it will be what it will be. Go straight back to your calories and have at it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing again, what I was saying earlier was, to a certain extent, you're not a competitive athlete. So if things do push it back slightly, I think your words with me to like, right, just do it. You know, we'll see what your next check-in's like and we'll just go from there basically. And we'll just do what we have to do. Yeah.
And then I think the day after you weighed in like 2 kilos more. And then the day after that, it was like back to average. And the day after that, it was like lower.
I'm sure I had a new low weigh-in. So I remember putting my story being like new low weigh-in. What the hell? But you know what? And actually what made that come into my mind was throughout the cut, we did go through slight phases of sort of diet breaks. We did occasionally. I think we did a few different. There was one time I definitely went home with my family. And I think you said, I can't remember whether it was like I didn't track or whether I just tracked calories and not did macros, but those things really helped me as well.
Yeah.
Obviously diet breaks are amazing. Mentally, really, as much as sort of like physically.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, when I look back on that cutting phase, and it's crazy because you do have to give yourself credit. And it's like, I did that in lockdown as well.
Yeah.
And actually, I always say that doing my cut, I think helped me a lot with the pandemic because it gave me so much focus with what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was getting up every day and I had this sort of like the purpose every day, and it helped a lot actually.
Yeah.
You know, I was getting my cardio in, I was going for walks, and my energy expenditure was nice and high. So it was, it's a crazy year when you think about it. But that ended in, so I'm trying to think, because we obviously ended our cut and we went on a reverse diet because my goal was always, I wanted to stay relatively lean as I was building. I didn't want to, because, you know, when you come out of a cut, you can reverse diet or you can just kind of go straight back up. And I knew I always said I wanted to stay because that was kind of my goal. And from then we've just been doing a lean bulk and it's just been going really good,
really well,
taking it slowly, and we're not rushing anything. And that's the thing. So I'm not setting myself this deadline really. And as you were saying at the beginning, like it can be hard sometimes in a building phase, not having that deadline. But for me, I'm focusing so much on my training performance, the journey, that I just feel really satisfied. And I said to you, I think it was before the podcast, actually, this is probably the happiest I've ever been, because we say we've already had a lot of chats.
Yeah.
This is like the happiest I think I've ever been in like my physique and my fitness journey. I just feel really content, and because I've got the hard times and things like that happen, but for me, it's just part of that process. So
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's worth mentioning because we reversed you, didn't we? Only for, I think, maybe 6 weeks. It wasn't very long, I don't think.
But
from my perspective, what was really interesting about that is that I would never do that normally. I would normally go maintenance straight to gain. But because of the nature of what had happened in terms of where we got you into that kind of, I think it was like the 48, wasn't it? The lowest.
Yeah, we were lean at that point. I was getting really lean.
Yeah, I was quite concerned at that point because I was like, I don't want to go from these lower calories straight to higher calories, because then the food focus kicks in and we go for food that like naturally will boost hunger, where hunger wasn't necessarily a problem until that last couple of weeks.
And we came out of that really like gradually. And actually that's probably another thing that was so good, is that it was just so controlled. I came out of it so well. Like I didn't.
Yeah. The transition was wonderful. Really wonderful.
Yeah, because food focus was, in the last couple of weeks, food focus was quite high. I think it's just natural when you're cutting, because obviously you've got to be so planned. You've got to plan everything. So I would have my meals planned out to a T. It would hit lunchtime and I'd be like, right, 12 o'clock, let's have lunch. Whereas, you know, in a gaining phase, for example, as you know, Sandra, from my check-ins, is sometimes I forget to eat now because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
I came out of the reverse diet and it was great. I just didn't really have too many issues really. And I think that's just because we were, like I said, we were honest through the process. We took it really carefully. Every adjustment we made was in relation to the progress I was making and the way I was feeling.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you give yourself enough credit there, because I don't disagree with any of those points, but I also think you make the process so much easier for yourself. And so many people don't do this. Like I talk to my clients a lot about, hey, how can we make this process easier for you? And sometimes that, you know, people associate easier with doing less, and that's bollocks. Sometimes to make a process easier, it's about doing more.
Yeah.
So you front load. Give her a shout out. Shout out, Roxy.
Here she is.
Oh, I saw her
People
destroying
who
your
are,
clothes yesterday. That looked like fun.
yeah, she's very naughty. She's very naughty, but we love her. But yeah,
Because you actually you put in a lot of effort to make your life easier. And some people don't do that. They think, oh, cool, he's saying let's make this easier. That means do less. It means do more for
yeah,
future do less. It's like meal prep. You do more, it takes you 2 hours, sure. But then the rest of the week, you just got to put your hand in the fridge and
yeah,
take it out. Like, that's easy. But you have to put that
100%.
effort in on top. And that's something that I've always thought that you've done really, really well. And so, like,
Oh,
when
thank
we
you.
come to the check-ins and like, yeah, the honesty and things like that are super helpful. But it's also about being able to take accountability for the shit that you haven't done well. So it's like,
Yeah,
I kind of fucked it today because I forgot to eat because I didn't plan and I didn't make time for it. Cool. We
yeah,
can work with that. There's responsibility being taken there. But, you know, I've seen people do this before where they break down that word. It's responsibility, the ability to respond. So you are saying, right, I didn't do this. This is what I'm going to do next week. Or it might be that I dive in and say, hey, why don't you just try this? And one of those things actually, which I think you do now is like, right, I need to get in this many calories by this time, this many calories by this time, and this many calories by this time. So you don't then end up getting to like 8 o'clock and being like, I have to eat 1,200 calories.
well, exactly. And that's why I was struggling with. So because I was so focused on building, obviously, my coaching at the moment. I'm so busy, and then I've got my commitments with like Instagram and my protein, who I also work with. So it's just so hard and so easy to forget about eating. But as you said, putting those systems in place, and that's what I've done now. So I will set myself goals throughout the day to hit, and it becomes so much more manageable. And it's even simple things like if you're going to train in the morning and you're struggling with morning routine or things like that, if you just pick your gym outfit the night before, if you write out your workout in your logbook the night before and you have your bag packed and ready, sometimes it'll get to 9:30 and I'll be like, I just want to lie in bed and read Harry Potter, but I'm gonna get my bag ready, get my outfit packed, and it's like that effort at the time, but then in the morning it's so easy and it makes your life a lot easier. So I think that's really, really important.
It's removing frictions, isn't it, from frictionful situations. So I do the same as you. Like in the evenings, I always lay out all the stuff I'm going to wear to the gym in the morning, partly because I get yelled at when I walk across the squeaky floorboards.
That's literally me in the morning.
Yeah, but also because the truth is, at like 6 a.m, I just want to get up, go to the bathroom, put my clothes on and go to the gym. Like, I don't want to be searching for a bloody loose sock, because that's sometimes honestly, that's enough to make you want to get back into bed.
Yeah, it's all about it's like the less decisions you have to make, the better in the morning.
Absolutely.
I did read that somewhere in a book. I can't remember which one, but it was talking about decision making and how that can really impact your day. And it's like that you should try and make the least amount of decisions in the morning that you have to.
Yeah, they reckon it's decision fatigue, isn't it? I see somebody.
I think
this is like a candle, where they reckon that you have. I think this was actually disproved lately in a study, because I remember looking at it thinking that the study might have disproved that, but I still think this is a thing whereby you have as many decisions to make in a day as you have a candle, and that candle burns throughout the day. So the more decisions you make, the quicker the candle burns. So by the end of the day, it's likely that you're just like, oh, and dieting is an easy example of this. You get to the end of the day and like your partner might say to you, oh, what do you want to have for dinner? Don't even ask. Like, I can't even make that call right now. Just tell me what we're having and we'll go from there. It's quite interesting.
I definitely think decision fatigue is like 100% a thing. It honestly helps me so much because picking a gym outfit, you don't want to do that at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. It's not, and it throws you off. It makes you honestly, it's what I've had to do. So yeah, it's all about, I think, prepping ahead and just, as you said, making things easier for yourself really does help.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well,
crazy times.
Indeed. I've taken up quite a bit of your time now. I'm incredibly grateful for you joining me.
That's okay. It's been so fun.
It's been great. It's been really, really good. Is there anything you wanted to cover that we haven't necessarily covered that we might have covered earlier?
To be honest, I think we've gone through everything really.
Yeah, I think we have.
It's just, I wanted to come on here and just talk about like everything really, like fitness journey, and
I think it's been brilliant.
Goals for the future, maybe. I don't really know. That's the thing. I'm so set on just smashing this building phase for as long as it needs to take, getting strength up on squats.
Yes. Squats been a journey in itself. We could podcast on that individually.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? I think that would actually be really useful. I think a lot of people struggle with squat fit.
Let's do that. I think that would be great. I actually, interestingly, think barbells in an entirety can do that. I think when you have, especially if you come from like a powerlifting background, you fear sometimes in a slightly different way the fatigue that comes off the back of it. It's not even necessarily fear of like squatting, but like I've got friends and clients who are just like, I know how the fatigue is done to me by doing that wrong in the past. I don't want to do that again. It's like, okay, this is a different kind of fear, but quite cool. I think we'll dive into that. That would be great.
Yeah, good. Because I definitely do think, obviously we'll get into it if we do another one, but I think powerlifting probably was responsible for making me, because you go from doing 1 rep maxes all the time to suddenly having to, master this. Yeah, it's interesting topic. Fears in the gym. I feel like not just squats, any lift in general, how to approach things that are challenging but you want to work on.
I agree.
Which I think it's important.
Just before you go, just let the people know where they can find you. So we obviously have Instagram, etc.
Yeah, so Instagram is Laura_Rose_fitness. I do have a YouTube channel, however, not posting as regularly on that at the moment, just because of my coaching. So yeah, on my Instagram, you can just drop me a DM.
There are some great videos on there though. Do check them out. Some of them are pretty funny as well.
10K challenge if you want the context, go check it out.
You just won't see my side of the story. Oh look, Sandra just messaged me telling me this is a terrible idea.
I want to do it again, actually. Now that I'm sort of gaining, and I've been it was because it was tough. So
I'll tell you what, I'll take you on.
Should we do that?
I will take you on, and I tell you what, I'll raise you one more as well, because I'm of the opinion that 10,000 isn't that much.
Oh, stop!
So I tell you what, and I'll say this live here now. I will, if you don't reach 10, I will eat all of yours as well.
Okay. You know what? So I got to 6. And bear in mind, I was like 18 weeks, whatever, into dieting. That's not too bad. So
yeah. No,
it's all about the cashew nuts. It's honestly, it's harder than you think it would be. So many people say to me, they're like, oh, it must be so easy. Like I can, have dinner and then I could smash like 3 donuts. It'd be easy. That's but honestly, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a different kettle of fish.
It's though. It's all fun.
Yeah. Oh, let's do that. That would be good fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure that my coach will love that.
You can blame it on me. Tell him the story.
I'll be like, sorry. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send him the exact messages you sent me. I'm sure this won't be a problem, but
I can't believe, how did I have the audacity to say that? I'm sure it won't be a problem. Yeah, just an extra 10,000 on top of your weekly average.
That would be like saying, I'm sure it's not going to be a problem, but I'm actually going to be getting a Tesco meal deal for lunch today and not a normal. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be eating 8,500 calories over what my allotted allowance is supposed to be.
Oh my God. Well, all part of the fun, isn't it?
It's all part of the fun. It's all part of the fun. Well, Laura, thank you ever so much. And I'm sure
it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me
as well. No, you're welcome.
I hope you guys have enjoyed our chit chat.
Indeed. If you have any questions, anybody, ping them our way. And hopefully we'll do another one. Maybe we could do maybe a Q&A. We could do all sorts of stuff. But this has been really good fun. I've really enjoyed it. So
yeah, it's been really good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care for now. Bye-bye.